Welcome to a new Daily Top Askreddit video. Today's topic.
What can women do but when men do it, it's a big no. Casually touch people. I used to grow my hair out and had these long curly locks. The gals at work for whatever reason felt like it was okay to just come up and touch them without asking. I am sitting there thinking, if I walked up to any girl in the department and ran my hand through their hair, just to feel it, I would be in HR quicker than I could explain myself. I have tattoos on my arms and I remember a bar my friends and I used to go to a lot when we were younger. For some reason all the waitresses felt comfortable just grabbing my arms and pulling them up to look at them. I stopped going there for about 15 years after one incident where I was having dinner with some friends and had just gotten back from Afghanistan a month prior, so I was very much still in fight or flight mode. Well, I had gotten some extra work on one arm and one of the waitresses came up and grabbed my arm from behind and I shot right up out of my seat. I paid for dinner and left immediately. I also have PTSD and make it a huge boundary for people not to touch me quite immediately. For some reason it's the boundary that's pushed the absolute most often. I've just started getting intoxicated before things to be able to handle it now since I just plan ahead for it. Fucking hate people like that. One of my friends shaves his head completely. One time during a meeting, his, now former, female boss walked up and stood behind him and then just started rubbing his head like she was rubbing a Buddha statue's belly for good luck. She wanted 3 wishes. As a single father of daughters, I see a lot. Side-eye glares from mothers when I take pics of my kids at the park. Inability to hire a babysitter that isn't an expensive professional. When my ex-wife would be physically abusive towards me, I was told to man up, and it's not that big of a deal. Parents won't allow their kids, my kids' best friends and neighbors, to sleep over at my house. When out with the kids I'd hear, "Oh, giving mom a break." No, I'm their fucking dad. Okay, I don't actually say that, I would smile and nod. When I was a stay-at-home dad, people said, he doesn't work, but when a woman stays home she's sacrificing for her family and is really family-focused. Haha, I've totally been exactly there. Holy shit, I felt like I needed to bring her birth certificate with me every time we went to a playground together. You never see men spying on women who have clearly kidnapped a child and are having a great afternoon together. Also, the other thing they do, if not label you a cold predator in their minds, is say shit like, "Oh, you're on babysitting duty today, Dad." Maybe it was a pickup line. I have no idea, but it was pretty annoying. I did host a sleepover, though I had another partner at that point. So perhaps that was a factor. Went through that fresh from my divorce earlier this year. I used to get so many compliments for playing with my kids in public, but the second I go to a park without my now ex-wife, everyone acts like I'm trying to snatch a kid. My daughter brought another girl up to me and said, "This is my dad." I waved and said, "Hi," and her mom rushed over, grabbed her daughter, and hastily mumbled, "We don't talk to strangers," before dragging her away. And, I get worrying about who your kid talks to, but fuck, it hit me hard right there. I realized my house would never be the sleepover house. My girls would have trouble having friends over because it's me, a single dad. Nobody is gonna let the girls sleep over here. And fine, I guess. I just hate me being a single dad will affect how my kids are able to see their friends. I was once at a party where there was a very physically abusive woman, an acquaintance of others present. She sat on various men's laps, pressed herself against them while dancing, put them in a stranglehold and, for example, kissed their necks and finally grabbed their crotch at some point. Each of them got upset with her at some point, including the partners of the men concerned who were present, who couldn't believe their eyes, hid from her, asked her to stop or pushed her away at some point. There was a lot of hustle and bustle. Cold sweat smile, but bottom line, she behaved in such an extreme way, I can't even describe it very well anymore, that I'm sure that if she had been a guy, the police would have been called right then and there. Cold sweat smile. I've had that happen to me a few times as a guy when I was in college. I found out it was easier to let it happen because if I pushed her away, I was made fun of by not just guys, other girls for being a prude or gay. That is quite the double standard. Holy. Ah yes, college. Everyone is legally an adult but socialize like high schoolers. I was once bowling on my birthday and my buddy called a few friends to come join us. One girl I've never met and don't know showed up, singled me out as the birthday boy, and I think in an extremely misplaced effort to make me feel special. "Have a good birthday." She proceeded to steal my hat, drink my beer from the same glass, tried to sit in my lap. I asked for my hat back, got a new drink, and kept changing seats, obviously uncomfortable and uninterested. When I went to take my turn, she came up and basically stuck her tongue down my throat. I left immediately and went to another friend's house to process what the hell just happened. She stole my number off his phone and proceeded to call me begging me to come back to hang out, found all my socials. I had to start finding her to block her before she found me. Hell no. I had a girl steal my hat at a bar once. She got pretty upset and tried to have me thrown out when I pulled her back by her hair and took my hat back. The bouncer she told watched it happen and thought it was hilarious. The office I used to work in had a policy where it hired summer casuals who were going to uni in September each year to cover basic jobs while the peak summer leave kicked in. So we'd get an influx of temporary young people into the office each summer. Once, a higher-up manager, female, went round the office introducing this young lad to everyone. She introduced him to one bank of desks, all female, and said, "There you go, girls. Gives us something pretty to look at all summer, doesn't it?" And I remember thinking if a 50-something old man introduced a 17-year-old girl to a group of men old enough to be her father that way, he'd be lucky to only be fired. Have that all the time at work. I'm male and I do flowers at the front of the store in the morning. This job frequently requires me to get on the floor and clear up intermittent spillages. I get no end of comments from female customers of a certain age saying, "That's what I like to see, a man on his knees." And no one fucking blinks. Imagine if I said that as a customer to a woman just doing her job. Boils my piss every time just thinking about it. Not to even mention the women that think it's funny to imply I'm doing something religious. Say a prayer for me. No. Fuck off. In an ideal world, I'd go with an innocent, "Sorry, what was that?" and make them explain the joke. I'm usually not that brave or quick-witted though. I once was changing at the pool, and a mom walked straight into the full male change room to check on her son. I kicked her out and reported it. Nothing happened. If I did that for my daughter, I'd be arrested and put on a list. Edit, there are family change rooms where families can go, and each individual has their own stall to change. There are also bigger stalls if someone needs assistance. So there is a female change room, a male change room, and a family change room. All the same size. Fuck sake, if the child is young enough that he needs to be checked then he should have been allowed to change in the ladies' changing area with his mom. Yeah, that's the normal thing to do where I live. Or use the family changing room provided. Engage in low-level physical abuse to their partner. And no, I am not saying men should be able to do this. Yeah, my GF slaps me all the time. Like he'll make a little joke, or say something she doesn't like, and I get slapped for it. When we first started dating he used to punch me in the arm, and shush is surprisingly strong for her size. She stopped punching, but only because I asked her to. The slaps are somewhat light, but like, why? I can't slap her back, unless it's on the ass. Sorry to hear that, man. It's such a hard thing to negotiate because it really shouldn't be acceptable. I'd say most people think FM face slaps are unacceptable, except in extreme circumstances. I'd say they shouldn't be acceptable ever, but things like arm punches and chest pushes are frequently seen as okay and men find it very hard to draw lines without sounding like a wuss. Of course the obvious answer is to dump her, but I know you may not want to. I do get that society treats MF violence more seriously because of the lethality aspect, but FM violence is at the very least humiliating and abusive, and of course there are times when it can result in severe injury or death. You know you don't have to stay with her, right? Talk to strangers' kids. It's interesting, I work in a hospital, and every year they tell us that the most likely suspect in a child abduction is a woman aged 12 to 50. Most people in this thread are capable of relatively amicable disagreement. Those who aren't have been blocked. While many results come up which approximately confirm my statistic when I Google most likely suspect in a child abduction, I'm linking this one to get you started. Why is a 12-year-old abducting kids? Casual violence in language in relation to partners, "I could throttle my husband," is seen as a light-hearted statement to express anger, but if a man said the same thing about his wife everyone would have a problem. A while ago, another post inspired me to actually take a look at how I was speaking to my BF. I had been tired of making all decisions, and I realized I made all of the decisions because I hadn't given him room to feel to always comfortably express what he wants or thinks about some things. So I quietly thank that anonymous poster because she might have had an incredible effect on our relationship and how much more consideration I take in speaking with him. I've made it a point to tell him his thoughts are valuable and stop making unilateral decisions. Anyone would tell a woman that my previous approach was abusive and controlling if I was a man. Edit, context is, he's retired and my monthly income is 4x his. I pay for about 80% of our lives and leisure. He can't have a post-retirement career while following me around the world. But he chooses to follow me at expense of his career. I wish my ex-wife would have been as open and reflective as you. Difference though is she didn't have that career as you and hardly worked. I'm happy for you though, always great when people are able to reflect and grow. Similarly, when women or girls put down men and boys with statements like, "He couldn't do anything without me," or "Women are smarter than men." As a woman I hate that shit. I had a boss that would say, men are so useless without us, and he can't do anything by himself, referring to her husband. We had one guy on our team and she'd say that shit in front of him. Nice, smart guy too. I left that toxic environment and I was happy to hear when the guy left too. Every fucking time a woman comes over to our house and I'm cooking dinner, I do 100% of the cooking, they say to my partner, wow, you've got him trained well. I hate this shit with the power of 1,000 suns, holy fuck. Walk into the men's room. BC, the women's room line is long. I've ducked by women guarding the door of the men's room because a woman was in there. Sorry, no, it's the men's room, you don't get to keep me out. I worked in security for a large car show, and the lines for the ladies' toilets were getting far longer than for the gents. Every now and then we'd stop the line of guys and let a load of ladies in there. A couple of hours later, I was washing my hands after a long overdue comfort break when a young lady, maybe in her early to mid-20s, strides in, hoiks the back of her skirt up, pulls the back of her thong brief aside and backs up to one of the urinals. She asked for some toilet paper, which one of the guys politely obliged, and casually chatting to the guys in the urinals either side of her got on with her business as if nothing whatsoever was out of the ordinary. I remember catching the eye of another guy just as the young lady left. The look on his face was one purely of, did that just happen? I went to the Eras tour, I'm a straight, male Swiftie, there are dozens of us. And the amount of women who piled into the men's room was insane. They just had this, oh well, smug look on their faces. I have extreme anxiety ab the restroom and need to use the stall, but the women were lined up obviously exclusively for the 4 stalls in the men's room, ushering all other men to the urinals, which I do not use because of my anxiety. I knew I was outnumbered so I didn't say anything. But it felt really fucking uncomfortable and I didn't expect that at a Taylor Swift concert where everyone wants to feel safe. Had a great time, but the bathroom argument seems lost because I was a man and a lot of the women in that line thought it was funny and cute they were in the men's room. Teehee. If I went into theirs for a stall I would have been mauled tears of joy.